Hi guys, my name is Nikki. I work over at Tres Gatos in Jamaica Plain in Boston, and today I'm going to walk everyone through how to make a sherry cobbler. So I did want to talk a little bit about sherry first, kind of what it is and why it's a cool spirit or a cool wine. Sherry is a fortified wine that comes from Jerez in Spain. That's on the southwestern coast of the Atlantic Ocean. So, a lot of things are special about it. There's a whole range of sherry, as you can see, and it totally ages and changes and takes on completely different profiles as it gets older, for obvious reasons and also for really unique reasons. Sherry is aged in a Solera system, which is a system of barrels that are stacked on top of one another. The youngest sherry gets put into the barrel on top, and then it gets siphoned down through all the other barrels and pulled out of the bottom barrel to actually bottle it up and send out for drinking. So sherry never has a vintage year, and it's a blend of all the years of the past. You're always drinking a little bit of really old sherry, which is cool. So when sherry gets put in the barrel, a combination of environmental factors makes it so that it grows this thing called flor on the top. They leave space in the barrel so that it actually can grow this yeast. That's what flor is. It's just a type of yeast, and it grows in like a couple of centimeter layer on top of the sherry, and it prevents it from seeing oxygen. So what we know about wine, when it sees oxygen, it starts to change, it gets sweeter, chemical reactions happen. I know a lot about science, obviously, but flor prevents sherry, young sherry, from seeing oxygen, which means it stays bone dry, and it also starts to pick up kind of those yeasty flavors, reminiscent of like champagne, you know, like when you smell that kind of bread note on good champagne. Young sherry kind of has that because it has the flor on top of it. And then as the flor starts to die off and the sherry starts to continue to age, it sees some oxygen, it gets sweeter, it picks up notes from the barrel, it starts to change. You get like the obvious sweetness that comes from seeing oxygen, and then you also get those toffee notes or those baking spices, and that's when a Fino sherry, which has those like bone dry yeasty notes, starts to turn into an Amontillado sherry, which is kind of middle of the road and has a little sweetness, really well balanced. Going to turn into an Oloroso, a little bit sweeter, a little bit more barrel, a little bit less flor, and then it's going to keep on aging and getting sweeter. Your super sweet sherries, think Pedro Jimenez, like dessert sherries, are made from a different grape. They resemble like a port wine kind of, syrupy, sweet, good for dessert. But the sherry that we're going to focus on is Amontillado today, because that's what's traditionally used to make a sherry cobbler. So, Amontillado, think you still get those yeasty notes, those traditional like white flower, white fruit profiles that you expect from white wine, but you're also getting those barrel notes, that toffee, that vanillin, wood. It's really yummy, it's well balanced. So, what I'm using for my riff on the sherry cobbler is going to be a little bit different from a traditional sherry cobbler, but the good news is there are like boundless possibilities for this cocktail. You can use almost anything. That's pretty generous, but like, you know what I mean. You can use almost anything. So a traditional sherry cobbler, you're going to be using simple syrup, orange, and Amontillado sherry. Really simple cocktail, super easy. If you have sherry, you probably have all the ingredients in your house. I'm doing a little riff because, like I said, it's a super versatile cocktail. You can use whatever seasonal, or even things that aren't super seasonal, because, like, I hate to say it, but ripeness isn't a huge factor here. So I'm actually going to be using strawberries, because even though it's April 1st, so they're not like super sweet and ripe, they have a nice tangy quality to them that's actually going to be cool in the cocktail. So I used 4 diced strawberries, and then I'm still using oranges. I ended up with like 3 pretty generous slices of orange because you want the juice, and you also want the oil that you get from the rind, so you don't have to peel it, just like throw it all in there. And then I'm using chai-infused honey for my sweet aspect. So you can just use simple syrup, you can use demerara syrup, you can use honey syrup, which is 50% honey and 50% water, Or you can do what I do. I think it adds a really fun kind of backbone that reinforces that spicy note to the sherry. I make a chai infused honey. So that's super easy. I use 3 chai tea bags to 6 ounces of hot water, and then I cut it with the same amount of honey. So you end up with 12 ounces of, you know, honey syrup that's pretty strongly infused with chai tea, and it's yummy. You can use it for whiskey cocktails, you can put it in tea. It's nice to have around, it doesn't hurt. So the strawberries, the honey, and the oranges are gonna get muddled together. If you don't have an actual muddler, you can use like pretty much any kitchen utensil. The back of it will be blunt enough to use as a muddler. Also used like a meat tenderizer as a muddler before, that works really well. Or if you have like a mortar and pestle, or just like a cocktail kit, you probably have a muddler, which is useful. So you're gonna wanna like pulverize that pretty good. Get all the juices out, get all the oils out, get it into that chai honey. And then the only other component is your sherry. So obviously it's a sherry cocktail, it's all sherry, you're gonna be using a lot of it. I use like 3.5 ounces. So 3.5 ounces of Amontillado sherry, a generous 1/2 ounce of chai honey, a few slices of orange, 4 diced strawberries, and shake it with some ice. So you can actually look up sherry cobblers, and our favorite cocktail historian, David Wondrich, has done some awesome research into it and kind of where it came from, where we first saw it. It actually has kind of a nerdy literary history, so if you're interested, hopefully we'll include the link. I love David Wondrich, I love nerdy literary history. But if you're not interested, I will save you the dorkiness. It should be served over crushed ice. It should be served with a straw. I know we're like super not into straws these days, and that's awesome, it's a good thing, but the sherry cobbler is actually the cocktail credited with popularizing the drinking straw. So sometimes, as an homage to niche history, sometimes you have to break the rules. Plus, if you're drinking something over crushed ice, it's really hard to not use a straw. Anywho, it should also be really pretty. I believe that of all cocktails, but particularly this one. So I have a little strawberry flower, and I have a little orange bow tie. And this is a non-traditional sherry cobbler. Thanks so much for hanging out, guys. Stay safe, stay inside, wash your hands, and keep drinking good cocktails. Cheers.